Hey everyone, it's Rita with Everything Homemade, and it is August 9th, 2021, and take a look at the celery row. So today what we're going to do is we are going to harvest this celery, or start to harvest it, because there's quite a bit out here. So a couple of key notes. I have soup celery here. As you can see, the stalks, they're a little bit bushy, than just like having the stalks come up. There's a lot more leaves, so you have a lot more leaf with the stalk. So I do have soup celery here, which is actually grown in my favor this year because we've had crazy hot weather. And I know you've heard me say this so many times, but depends on who's watching what video. I need to repeat myself a little bit. The celery isn't going to be as big as it would be on a year that has favorable weather. So celery, it loves wet, marshy areas, so they don't like drying out. And we've had plus 41 degrees Celsius. It's been super hot. We've had very little rain. And you can see how short they are. Like, we're talking probably a foot high, and they've kind of just stopped growing because it's the heat. It's just so hot. And so a lot of plants are stunted just because. The other thing is, what this heat has actually affected the plants. It has caused some to bolt because they're in survival mode. With that kind of heat, plants are like, oh my goodness, it's so hot, I'm gonna die. I've got to make my next generation of seed, and they start to bolt. So you don't really want to keep seed from a bolted plant like this, and this one is probably the biggest one that's bolting, because you really want genetics that aren't going to bolt the first year. So you don't want to keep that seed. What you actually want to do is cut all this away, because it's going to be bitter. So that's what we're going to do, is just chop the top off there. So Ocean, you want to show them how to just chop it off there? I'm going to have Ocean, my daughter here, show them. So what you want to do is you can see where it's bolting, where the seed heads are coming from. So basically, you're chopping this plant about halfway up the plant and just chopping it. It's not good to eat. It doesn't taste very good, but my cows will definitely enjoy it. So that's what she's going to do there. So the reason why I'm harvesting this in August right now and not waiting is because we actually got rain for the first time in 3 weeks, but the weather depicts another hot heat wave of 33 degrees Celsius for like a week. And there's no point in trying to wait for my celery to get any bigger, because more and more it's just gonna bolt. And so as a gardener, you have to make sometimes hard decisions. Go, you know what, we need to harvest what we got right now, or you're gonna lose it. And that's exactly what we're gonna do. And my plan in the first place was to dehydrate the celery. So what we're gonna do is, we obviously don't have enough room in the dehydrates to do this entire row at once. But what we do have is a huge bowl here. And what we're gonna do is fill this bowl full of cut celery, bring in the house, see how many dehydrated trays it fills. And then if we need to go for another round, we will, but we're only going to cut what we need and what fills the dehydrator. And I made an awesome video on how to dehydrate celery, so I'm not going to repeat that video. So check it out. I'm going to also list it at the end of this video. Check out what we did there. I go in depth into everything. That way this video isn't so long. So if you want to know how to dehydrate celery, that's where you want to go. So Ocean, come along here. So what we're going to do is, she's going to actually start cutting here, and she's going to lift the plant up, bend it over, and basically cut it about an inch from the base, and just cut it right across. She's going to basically put that in a bowl, And then we're gonna wash it up inside the house, put it on the dehydrator trays, and start dehydrating, leaves and all. The other thing I would like to also say is that even though we're harvesting this celery at an early age, it can come back. So if you take a look here, this plant right here is smaller. I harvested this plant about a week and a half ago because I was making relish and it called for fresh celery. So I took this plant and this plant down right at the base like Ocean just did over there. And if you take a look, in a week and a half, it almost rejuvenated the plant because it like came back in full force better than these plants that weren't cut. So I'm also thinking we're going to get 2 cuts of celery because I can probably cut this celery by middle of September, barring that nothing bad happens with the weather. They can handle a bit of frost. It's hardy. So by the way it looks, I can definitely maximize my maximize my output of the celery by actually cutting it straight down and letting the plant grow back. So that's an interesting note as well with celery, and it's coming back really beautifully, really beautifully. The other thing is garden celery is a lot stronger in flavor, isn't it, Ocean?
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
It's awesome, isn't it? The leaves are a lot more pungent. You don't need as much celery to get that flavor as you would, let's say, the store-bought. So just make that a mental note when you're adding that into your soups. The other thing is when you're adding dried celery into soups or into, you know, your pot where you're having your roast or something like that, you have to have it at least cooking for a couple of hours. So if I'm throwing dried celery into my soup, I make sure I do it first because it's gonna take a couple hours to soften it completely. So a lot of people, you know, they throw the dried carrot or dried celery in, and then they like, oh, why is this still hard? Yeah, the cooking time, there's a lot longer cooking time when you add it in. When I'm cooking it for my base, I at least allow an hour and a half to 2 hours on a simmer to get my celery really nice and soft and yummy in my pot when you're adding dried in. So Ocean, can you show them that awesome color, that red
Yes.
color? Like, I mean, I'm trying not to get the shadow here because it's so sunny, but take a look. Like, we grew this red celery and it's just gorgeous in color. I absolutely love it. I mean, look at that. Beautiful, isn't it?
Yes.
Absolutely. And taste it. Oh my word. Just gorgeous. Gorgeous taste. Gorgeous looking celery. Let's watch out. You got some clover in there.
Yeah.
And so anyway, like I said, we're gonna harvest this. Take a look what she's done already, even just in the time I'm talking here. Hey Grace.
Hi.
Gorgeous looking, just gorgeous, nice and green. So we're gonna get a lot out of here. I'm really impressed. The other thing is dried celery. If you ever want a snack, dried celery will blow you away how good it is. Absolutely good. So flavorful. Like you don't think about, you know, having a snack by eating dried celery, but you should really try it. It is beyond delicious. So that's where, so I'm going to conclude this video and say basically, if you want to know, and say once again, if you want to know how to go through the whole process of drying and storing your celery, check out the video at the end of this video. I'll go through it all in depth. I go through it all in depth in that particular video, so check that out. Otherwise, just don't be frustrated. The worst thing you can be as a gardener is get frustrated with the weather and with what is going on. Always look to see, hey, what are some of the positives that we got out of this garden? Yes, our celery isn't as big. It's smaller, the stalks are smaller, but we got celery and we're going to have a wonderful harvest. So on a side note here, as Ocean has been harvesting, we have come to notice a couple things that are really important that I should mention. One, we found some mold around this plant here, the base here, and you can see that little bit of white here. That's actually mold. So what you should do, the stalk and everything is actually really good. It's just remove that mold, pinch it away, get rid of that. And what has happened is that because we've had it so hot and then so wet and then things are dying in this area, there's just this little bit of mold buildup. Clean it up. The other thing is, by harvesting it, it'll open it up, give it some air circulation, the sun will kill it, things will dry up, and your plant is still fine. When you're also harvesting, just clean it up, like all the dead, any kind of weeds, just start pulling it, making sure that there's no dead around it, and that will definitely decrease the chance of any more mold forming and give the plant that second chance to really come back really strong. So don't worry if there is some, like I said, we'll just pull it up, clean up any of the dead around it, so it should look something like this, really nice and clean, and something like this. So just wanted to mention that that's what we're finding with our celery here, which is no big deal. Just keep it clean. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next video.